lounging, son.
All right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Manny.
And today we're going to be talking New Mutants #1 by Chris Claremont and Bob Mcleod. Before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe or hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the dope content on the channel. We got a bunch of cool playlists. Probably going to have to start an X-Men one soon because there's been a lot of X-Men stuff we've been posting lately. Interviews, all that good stuff. So, and also hit the bell icon so you're notified every time we drop a new vid. Now let's talk New Mutants #1, which I just bought this recently. This is actually the first time I've ever read it, which was in the last couple weeks. But I bought it a month ago, and I forgot that this wasn't the first appearance of the team. So, after reading it, I'm like, I don't necessarily think this is the best way to do a #1, if I'm being honest. It's not really introductory of the characters as much. Like you get a little bit of the personalities. This is definitely less action, more teen drama, like you mentioned before I hit record. But not to say it's not a good comic. I just not forgetting that they premiered in that graphic novel, the oversized one. I feel like I should have read that first. Nonetheless, I mean, it was cool to kind of look back at the team and the beginnings of them, and the difference of the way Professor Xavier treats them over the X-Men proper. And Glynis Wein is colorist again. I mean, it seems like she colored every comic book of this era.
Yeah, man. I was gonna mention that. I feel like the last 10 comics we've done from this period have been colored by her.
So you open up, right, and it's like you can't even tell if they're at the mansion.
I think they are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I don't know who this girl is, but she's giving Zan Koyman a different hairstyle. You meet Sam Guthrie, Cannonball, Roberto DaCosta, Sunspot, Danny Moonstar, Rain Sinclair, one of their teachers, Stevie Hunter.
Yeah, I didn't even know who that character was. I totally forgotten. I don't think she's ever really brought up much.
Yeah, I don't either. And so they're literally just giving her a new hairstyle. A lot of typical teen stuff that you'd see on I don't know, trying to think of a teen show. I don't know, Saved by the Bell.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Saved by the Bell, all that stuff from that era. Not the more mature teen drama shows, but the stuff you'd see on the weekend.
Yes, totally. That's a good call. Yeah, the 30-minute sitcom types.
Yeah, it's definitely has a lot of that. Karma is her name, I believe, right? Zan Koyman. A lot of this inner dialogue of them, oh my God, he kissed me. Does that mean he likes me? You know what I mean? So it seems like it leans a lot into that. You do get this projection that Danny Moonstar inadvertently does, which kind of shows the past of Karma and how she got to this point, her parents.
I do like how those projections are shown though in the pink.
Yeah. It's definitely cool that I like when they do that effect, just put an overlay over it. You don't need to color it, but then put fully color it and then put this covering over that. I like it better when it's just like this,
Yeah, same. And you're right when you said earlier, inner dialogue, there's a lot of thought balloons. This is probably Claremont at his most verbose, which I mean, that's not really a criticism because that's what he's known for. But if you want to an example of why people say that he was probably one of the most vocab heavy writers in comics, this issue is a perfect example of it.
Oh yeah, this one was I don't want to say it was a chore, but yeah, this was I've been reading a lot of the X-Men stuff from his run. I've got bits and pieces from the beginning, and then a lot of the stuff that's in the 200s when Silvestri is on there, Rick Leonardi, Jim Lee's coming on. Some of the issues I read this morning actually were some of the Jim Lee issues. It definitely reads way different. Although, those are late 80s. This is 83. So I'm 6 years into him. It seems like he gets less and less verbose at points.
Yeah.
But also it's interesting, after reading this and knowing where New Mutants goes, this is so different from even 17 issues, 18 issues later.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you before we started recording, because I have a lot of, and if you ever wanted to do some of those later issues, I'm down because I have sporadic issues. I probably have about 70% of the run.
Yeah, I mean, we did the Demon Bear saga before. We've done that, but it makes me wonder, did this not really catch fire? Did this not really like, was it not selling big numbers? And that's why they kind of had to like rework
Pivot
stuff,
so much. Yeah.
because it seems like they did it quite a bit. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, like everybody knows the end of this run is Liefeld, right? Liefeld comes on as artist, completely changes the dynamic of the book, the makeup of the team, their mission statement is all different, right? 85 issues from now is when
Yeah.
that happens, but like realizing that in just like less than 2 years, this book is going to take a pivotal twist.
Yeah.
And I thought that, as I'm reading it, it was interesting because, like, not to say I didn't like it, but it's definitely not action heavy, at least in this one. I haven't read the preceding issues, but it's an interesting way to do like a spin-off of the X-Men line, I think. To
It
not
is.
really like I get focusing on the teen aspect of it because, like, at this point, the X-Men proper, they're adults. They're not teen heroes anymore. So you kind of want to have like the next generation, and that's kind of what they are. But also what's funny is none of these characters for the longest time actually become X-Men members, members of the main team. For a long time, I think. I mean, I can't remember like when Sunspot, Cannonball, I don't remember a time when they were part of the actual X-Men. But I've always liked Danny Moonstar. She's always been an interesting character. I mean, she's got ties to Asgard too. She becomes a Valkyrie at some point. Her
Yeah,
powers
and
are
all
pretty
that stuff is
interesting.
in New Mutants, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
don't they? I think it's in one of the specials that they go to.
It's the annual they cross
Yeah.
over, yeah. But it's cool to kind of like, you're getting it at this point. While there's not a ton of action, you are getting like the different personalities of each member. And Bob
Yeah.
McLeod, does a great job of like, making, I guess, some of the quiet moments a little interesting. Whereas like
Yes.
sometimes it can be kind of boring. Like even just something as simple as this, like it feels like feels very like, something you'd see on TV or like project on film. You know what I mean? Like just her sitting there contemplating stuff, talking about her past, and she's like watering plants, kind of within her culture. She's Native American and stuff. So like Native American culture is very about the earth and about, taking care of the earth, stuff like that. And then you get like Professor X is old as fuck. He
Yeah,
looks
they make
old
him
as
look really
shit.
old in this.
Yeah, that's the only gripe I had. I'm like, why did you make this dude look like he was 80?
He looks like the Vulture or something, dude. Like
Yeah,
Silverman.
that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, look at that. Look at how wrinkled his face looks right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, he looks younger now. Looks younger now in the comics. I don't think I've ever seen him drawn as old as he's drawn here.
And it's weird because McLeod, I think one of McLeod's strengths is in facial expressions. He's got like a classic vibe to him that really works for this kind of book, like where you're gonna have like a lot of talking heads, where you gotta like sort of emphasize the drama with like the subtle like shifts in like facial expression. Which, I mean, that's a hard task to do in comics. It's probably arguably as hard to do that as it is to do like a really dynamic action page. Yeah. So I see why they picked him for this run. His art actually makes it a little bit more accessible because it is really beautiful. It almost has like a John Romita Sr. vibe to it.
It does. It does have it. To me, it feels like a mix of like John Romita and like John Byrne or something. A little bit.
Good call. Yeah. That's the best of two John.
What's interesting too is you got like Moira with a young Ileana, and they're going to the Israeli ambassador in London, and you see Gabrielle Haller, and she's the mother. So she's the mother of Legion, and they're talking about, I have a son not much older than you, and he's an autistic child, and I think that's kind of like interesting that we're getting like some of the groundwork is being laid, and like Charles Xavier is the boy's father, and you can see their shock and stuff going on here. And then we get the training session. So like I love this where Roberto's like, so are we gonna become the new X-Men? Because obviously, like that's what I would think. Like, what the fuck you got me in this costume for? Unless you're training me to be part of the team. And you can see
like Roberto in this book.
Yeah. You can see like he's like, no, you're not going to be. We're just training you. There will never be another team of mutant superheroes. I can't remember exactly at what point this is in the X-Men line. I don't think it's the Australian era yet. So I don't think the X-Men have been like declared dead. But I'm trying to remember what was going on in X-Men at this point. Because like, why would he be so against it? Why would he not? I mean, I guess Jean Grey probably died at this point. This is probably post Dark Phoenix saga.
I think so. definitely some kind of tragedy has happened, because
Yeah.
this is also, I think, when they start to portray Charles as like kind of a prick.
I don't know, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. Out of all the X-Men reading I've been doing lately, he's a fucking prick. You know? It's like he is. If you
Yeah,
think about the manipulation that he's done, you know, it's like on surface level, you're like, oh, he's their professor. He's training them. He gave them a place to live when the world hated them. It's like, but he turned them into a fucking army. He turned them into
yeah,
soldiers, dude. Like, I mean, yes, eventually Cable comes in and turns he literally comes into this book and turns the characters into soldiers. But at least he's not like pretending to be something else. Like
yeah. He's
Professor
honest about
X,
what he's doing.
yeah,
Yeah,
Professor X is a very like I don't know, like I don't know if you're reading the current X-Men stuff, but like at the end of it all, the Krakoan age, like Professor X once again, he's the fucking douche. He's the douchebag. And it's I don't know, it's kind of funny to like go back and see like he kind of always was this way. I mean, how can you trust somebody that can literally force you to do things with his telepathic powers? He's the strongest
yeah,
telepath on the planet. I love like though the Danger Room. I think we talked about it too. Like I miss seeing it utilized. It's
yes,
obviously like why would they utilize it at this point? There's no mansion. They're not there. They're not. You don't really. We don't really see the training of the next generation of X-Men anymore. Also, something I kind of miss about the X-Men line, and I kind of wouldn't mind some aspect of that or some form coming back into the current stuff. I mean, we'll see what happens with the the whole from
the
the
whole revamp.
ashes.
Like, yeah, this like post Krakoan age.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna say that I was the most excited when I saw that launch, but I'm gonna check out the number ones.
I am too.
If nothing else, review the number ones, give my honest opinion, good or
Yeah,
bad. I won't bash anything if I don't like it, but
right.
definitely willing to check it out. Plus, Gail Simone's like, I love her writing, so hers is
Yeah,
probably
I
the
do
one I'm the
too.
most
And I'm
excited about.
excited. I love Ryan Stegman too, and I'm excited to see him on the book. So
Back to this, I'm jumping
yeah,
jumping very far in advance, but I love that like you got these monsters coming out and they're just like, what the fuck, have monsters coming out? And then they're like, it's gone, it's magic, and like they've never been here before. So that's kind of cool to kind of see their first initial reactions going to the Danger Room. They got these matching outfits, which
which I love. I love
I
the
do
yellow
kind
and
of
black
dig. I do kind of dig
Yeah,
that. I like that I don't necessarily think it should have been their costumes that they fought crime
yes,
in,
but
but
like at school, like when
yes,
you're a doctor and you're
it's a
in
school
school, you all
uniform.
wear matching scrubs.
Yeah, yeah. I like that element of it. He basically is telling not just them, but us, the reader, exactly what the Danger Room is, which is kind of, in that sense, that's kind of good as a first issue. We get to
Yes,
see, for the most part, all of their powers displayed. I would have liked a little more backstory for them. That's the only thing that I would say is a gripe. Like, even the like for all of the times that this era of comic books would like rehash shit, this is the issue to rehash it in the number
right.
one. Like not in issue 22 do I need to know everything that happened before, but like issue one, in case people didn't pick up that graphic novel, it would have been good to like at least maybe some character bios.
Yeah,
I was recently reading Micronauts number one, and like I had no knowledge of the characters. And towards the end of the book, they gave bios on the main characters, which I appreciated. But I like Cannonball here. I dig his powers. I like the way his powers like are displayed. How he literally looked like smoke clouds going past underneath him as he's using his powers. I like that he's not exactly perfect with them, so he's like runs into a wall. He fucking, they're still learning. They don't know their
yeah.
powers that well. They have to train. Wolfsbane, I really dig. I really dig her character.
And there's some cool dynamic pages in this action sequence too. Like
Yeah, I just kind of wish. I guess what I would have liked them to see is them like fighting against something. But again, I don't know. This is a run that has been a huge blind spot besides like the Sienkiewicz stuff and the Liefeld stuff. So I'm definitely intrigued enough to continue on. I don't know when I may just have to buy the trade because I don't know that I could seek out every single issue of this. It starts to get expensive, but Sunspot's another one. I like how his power or how he looks later on, like when they start to give a little more detail to the way he looks.
I always love Sunspot though, like when he's powered up.
I love this look. The others are laughing. Why do I feel so afraid? I don't understand. the room can't really hurt me. You know, like it's these things that like while you pull those out and you don't even need those there, right? Like you could literally see what Danny Moonstar's like thinking. You can see what Wolfsbane's thinking. You can see what
Yeah.
Cannonball's thinking, but it does add a different layer to the character and really kind of getting into their, you know, their psyche and stuff and their personalities. And then you got Karma right here, dude. And then she's over here thinking about how, you know, she used her powers and it destroyed her twin brother. And that calls back to Team Up 100. So that's also, I didn't realize that. I thought these characters were all introduced at once. So it's interesting to see that she actually debuted in a story separate completely from that New Mutant special.
This page is a good example of what I was saying about the facial expressions. Like that, there's some good faces on this one. Like,
yeah, the sweat beads on her forehead too.
yeah, you know, just like the way her eyes look on that, and then like the when she's running away there at the bottom, like the pain look on her face.
Yeah,
it really sells it.
Yeah, I recently watched the New Mutants movie. I just had to see what it was about. It was actually not that bad. It was a weird
I haven't
movie.
seen it. I'm gonna have to see it.
Yeah.
I know they've added it to Disney Plus, so I might just watch that tonight.
Yeah, it sucks because it's like it really serves no purpose in terms of like it's not tied to anything. Those characters aren't going to come back. Those actors, I thought they did a great job. Each acts, like everybody that played the characters, I thought did really well. I like the displays of their Sunspot looks dope. The way his powers are displayed and when he's in that form. But you know, it kind of reminded me of that. So I watched that movie and then I read this and I'm like, oh, Danny Moonstar, Rain, like they have this like relationship here between them. I mean, they do it a little differently in the movie, but I love this. You know, like these guys aren't super confident. They aren't these like larger than life heroes. These are kids. You know,
yeah,
they are kids and they are presented to us in that way. And I love how her powers are displayed. Like, I mean, she's the whole like basis behind the Demon Bear saga, which was a really great story.
And some of those seeds are planted here with her talk about like her grandfather and like, you know, who was like, you know, there's a thing talk about like an eagle spirit and a bear spirit. So
yeah, I know her father was Eagle Clan, mother Horse Clan. Yeah, it is pretty interesting, dude, because it is laid down here. I mean, Claremont's like the king of that, dude.
Yeah,
planting seeds and then you don't find out for years. I mean, there's still shit he didn't finish off that he could still go back and tell if he wanted to, you know? Then we got Peter Gyrich, who's always a scumbag.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he had such a presence in some of the X-Men books. I'm starting to see more of.
Yeah, he looks like a villain straight out of RoboCop.
That's funny. I watched that last night. But look at this. Look at all this inner dialogue, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's like, I mean, talk about thought balloons. There's probably as many thought balloons in this issue as there are like narrative boxes and actual like talking word balloons.
But look at that. She goes from shaking, nervous, not believing in herself, and then she's like, no. Without shame as a Cheyenne should, I need to hold my head high. My family are people of honor and courage. Professor, you'll find I'm cast from the same mold. I love that, dude, because she does become a super confident character over time.
Well, she's kind of like the de facto leader at one point, right? I mean,
yeah, I always kind of looked at her as the leader, yeah. And then she's like super happy with herself. She passed the test, she got through everything, and then bam, she gets blasted. And then you can see up there, right in the shadow, somebody pressed a button. Yeah. Obviously, it's Professor X, and he's gonna push her a little harder.
Yeah, he's going up a level, I guess. You know, he's. I guess those are like the levels that you can choose for the danger room, and he chooses a higher level for her. But again, like you said earlier, that's I mean, yeah, he's a teacher, but that's somewhat manipulative too. So
it's no wonder Scott blasted his ass when he had the Phoenix Force.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was a fun issue. Definitely
great cover. I've always loved this cover. Like the purple.
It is a great cover.
With the yellow and everything striking. Really pops.
Yeah.
Like it's a great image. Makes for a good poster.
I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, look, I definitely want to pick up the graphic novel because I want to read that too, to kind of see how that led into here. But I'm definitely going to probably pick up some issues when I can, maybe just get the trade. I have a good amount of the Sienkiewicz stuff. So definitely want to check those out too. Maybe do a couple more episodes on that, but I highly recommend, checking New Mutants out. It's cool to see where these characters came from. It's especially if like it's a blind spot and you love X-Men. This is a cool way to kind of learn more about these characters who are given the spotlight more here than they are in, for a while they kind of get ignored, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah,
they
do.
really talk about these characters much, but great team dynamic, great power sets, just a fun book. So go pick it up. And while you're at it, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.